Greetings, brothers and sisters. So I have a brief introduction to do here about the last two videos of what I made on this channel 2 days ago about RFK Jr. and his. Let me just go find the title of the video. I might as well just read it. It'd just be better that way. And it's Bobby Kennedy just torpedoed his chance for truth or support by his take on the Palestinian and Max Blumenthal. And there was something more to the title was too long. But there was something that was else was supposed to be there. And then I made a follow-up on my Pockets of the Future channel, egregious RFK Jr. position on Palestine mirrors, Larry David's curb, of course, curb your enthusiasm. And I had just a few thoughts to add to that. And then I want to talk about what you lose when you lose the truth community, what RFK Jr. loses when he loses the truth community. Then I'm going to show you an old video of his interview with Roger Ailes, in which Kennedy has his normal voice before his voice went. And then I'm going to do the Tim Ballard interview with Trump, which I haven't seen yet. And so that'll be interesting. And then I'll get back to normal. Like this is it for, unless something happens, I don't want to cover this topic anymore in terms of, whatever happens with RFK Jr. My wife said he's agreed to talk to Max Blumenthal. I think it's in private. And RFK Jr. has talked about how he is open to other people's ideas and will change his mind on things if he's, I guess he has these kind of debate-like argument type of interactions, and he's willing to, be persuaded to see something differently if someone can present a, like a lawyerly debatey like argument. So we'll see if he, maybe reverses himself. The issue that I had more than anything else, and my wife just mentioned it this morning, is in that interview he did with that rabbi. He says that one of his central parts of his campaign was to convince the American people that they are wrong about Israel and to some extent Palestine, but really Israel. He wants to promote how great Israel is, and he wants the people that, listen to him, like it's part of his platform as a candidate, that Israel's this beacon of freedom and a wonderful country, an example of something that we all should strive for. And, we don't feel that way, right? Like lots of us, not just, he's thinking about convincing Democrats, but, he's been really campaigning to truthers. And, we may not know all the intricacies of what's going on there in that region, and everyone's got, victim stories on both sides of any conflict. And there's, the idea of a small country of Jewish people surrounded by, a massive, landmass that Kennedy brought up of Muslim people that don't like them and don't want them there. And so there's that like narrative that's there. And yet, his narrative is so far off base, and the fact that he's making this centerpiece of his campaign is a real bummer. But I talked about in this other video on my other channel, I showed clips from a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode that was called Palestinian Chicken. And it was about this restaurant, and, the major characters in the show are Jewish, and they're talking about how bad the Palestinians are. And I said there isn't a Palestinian lobbying group or famous Palestinian people there to rebut what was said. In fact, I couldn't find any articles talking about how it was disrespectful of Larry David. It's no controversy, no pushback. And it was pretty egregious, right? Like it's, it was bad. And I, explained the idea of abuse being an imbalance of power, where one person or one group has more power than the other group, in terms of the Palestinian people being occupied, and the difference in Israelis' power, which is number one, military power. Israel has one of the, the premier militaries in the world, and they're also backed by the number one military in America. And the Palestinian have rocks, right? They have they're Charlie Brown. They have no military. And then economic power, the GDP of Israel's 400 and what 88 trillion a billion dollars, and Palestinian GDP is 18. So there's a huge disparity in money power. And then foreign aid, which is particularly America, most of the money that the number one benefiter of foreign aid is Israel. They've been given more money than any other country, and they have a powerful lobbying group, and they have all these people in powerful positions on a global, in terms of the banking community, the monetary community, in terms of entertainment, in terms of media. There are Jewish people who are heads of those companies. So they have, and there's no Palestinians. And then I was talking about famous people. Like I know hundreds of famous Jewish people, whether they be entertainment or they be, some of them are even athletes and, managers and, high-ranking people in the government and, in media. I mean, there's so many of them. I could just, list them and be hundreds of them. And I know many Jewish people personally. I don't know one Palestinian person personally, and I don't know one famous one. And I was thinking about this. This is what I want to just add to that today. I know who Pauly Shore is, and probably you do as well. Pauly Shore was a unfunny comedian who made movies and was featured on MTV because his mother, I think her name was Mitzi Shore, ran the Comedy Store. And so he is a Nepo baby, someone who benefited from nepotism. Really unlikable, untalented. There's some redneck. He's out somewhere, and I don't know where it is, doing a comedy show, and he pissed some right-wing redneck up, and the guy comes up and just punches Pauly Shore in the face. You could find the video, right? Like Pauly Shore is making fun of his wife, or I don't know what happened. But Pauly Shore is a piece of boop. He's just, no talent, no discernible abilities. He got his big breakthrough, his connections, and he's kind of one of the lowest level celebrities, right? Somebody who, like whatever. And I know Pauly Shore, and he's someone who is from Jewish descent. I don't know if he's a practicing Jewish person, but he comes from, Jewish ancestry. And I don't know anybody who's Palestinian who's better than Pauly Shore. Like, I don't know one Palestinian. Like, I know who Pauly Shore is, but I don't know one Palestinian, right? Like somebody who's, on a higher level than Pauly Shore or even a lower level. I don't know the leader of Palestine. I don't know anything about it. And most Americans, that's the case. So you see the difference in influence here, right? In terms of power, that the power, and there's a power in fame. When you know the stories of other cultures, like one of the things when I was a kid, I liked watching TV shows that weren't about white people. Like I watched Sanford and Son and What's Happening, and the movie Shaft, and a variety of things that were African American content. And there wasn't much of it, like whatever it was, but I watched it. I was interested in it. And I love Native American culture. Like I said, this, was young. I had a whole connection to it. And even recently, there's a miniseries called The Dreamkeeper, and there's like a grandfather storyteller, and he's journeying with his son to like a powwow. And they tell stories, and then, the stories are animated, are live action, not animated, but they're brought to life as they travel to the powwow, and it's quite well done. I really enjoyed it. I still have a copy of it. I'll watch it again sometime with my wife. We have some, like post-apocalyptic content saved and things like this. If there's, electricity or whatever, and there's no internet or what we have now, whatever. But I gave a copy away. There is a guy from Iran who is, he does a public speaking. Like he's almost like a, one of those, upliftment kind of people. And he has a great personality. He's like somebody who's just, I don't know the word to describe it, but I see him and he's just always, when you talk to him, you feel good, happy. He's very positive. And he said, "Do you have any movies about Native American?" This is a guy who lives, he's in India quite a bit. He comes from an oppressive country, right? What's going on with Iran? And he goes, "You got any Native American movies?" So I got this, this one good miniseries thing that's good about teaching about the different aspects of the Native American culture. The stories come from different tribes. There's different, all these things. And I said, I was going back to America. I said, I'll bring you my copy. Like we had it in storage or whatever. And he said, great, I'll give you an Iranian movie. And one of the top Iranian movies. And so I bring him back the copy, and I watched the Iranian movie, and it had subtitles, and I still don't understand it. Like, it was a lot of people running around, and I don't know if it had a plot. What was interesting about it is in the Native American miniseries, there's a redheaded Indian, like a white person raised by Native Americans, and he's a part of one of the stories. And in the Iranian movie, there was a redheaded Persian, Iranian person, which I thought was kind of weird, because both movies featured a redheaded person, a ginger that wouldn't normally be in this whatever culture it was. But I watched the movie and I didn't understand it. But when you watch movies and you understand the struggle that other people go through, other races, other cultures, they become people to you, whereas they're just NPCs. Like the big complaint about white-based media is that white men are always the protagonist, and the other people are like NPCs. Like they have a black friend or a gay friend, or once in a while a woman is a protagonist, but they're all appendages. There's the hero, and then there's the woman who's the love interest, and then there's the other people that are all expendable, and that you don't really understand their story. The story is always about the white guy, right? And it's like 70% of the people are white in America, and American movies and TV shows go all around the world. Like people watch American content. Like we have produced more media, and it's kind of like propaganda, and people know about Americans through that. Like people imitate Americans all over the world. Our music, our customs, our all of it. They watch American sports, and we have famous athletes, world figures, but we don't know boop about other countries, right, and other cultures. And so when you watch movies, especially well done ones, and you get the struggle of the peoples, they become people to you. And you have that with Jewish people. Like you've seen movies and TV shows about the Holocaust. You've seen, whether it be Seinfeld or, Curb Your Enthusiasm or, something done by any number of like things done by Steven Spielberg. All these shows feature Friends. It all features Jewish people's stories, and I mean, there's like all these people, Barbara Streisand, all these famous, Jewish people who starred Fiddler on the Roof, and any number of, historical. There's a lot of content that comes from Jewish writers and producers and actors and comedians and things like that, right? And about Israel, and about these people and their lives and their struggle, but you've never seen anything on Palestine, like, unless you go to the land of the obscure, right? I'm against all this woke content because it sucks, but I understand the desire for it. But like, you got to make good content, and there's all these movies that are coming that featured people of color or people LGBTQ people as the protagonists, or women, which is fine if you make a good movie. And they're not. They're just it's usually them bitching about how bad the white man sucks, right? Like I talk about this all the time. And I didn't want to watch that movie. I can't think of the name of it. The Green Book. And I'd seen the actors, the guy Marcella Ali. He's been in a few things that I've always felt like he's a good actor that I've seen. And the guy who plays Aragorn in The Lord of the Rings, he's always in good things. I just saw a movie with him in it. I'm going to talk about when we get to the Tony Ballard interview with Trump, and because it's about human trafficking. But he's always in good things. Like he's in, he chooses his movies. He's not in a lot of them, but they're always, even if I don't like the movie, it's a quality. It's quality. The acting and the writing and the things like that. And I was moved by the movie. The guy who plays Aragon is like an Italian gangster who bodyguard who drives this gay black piano player into the South. Famous gay black piano player, and the Green Book is a book where black people can stay in terms of hotels, like they're not allowed in certain hotels and things like that. And it's very subtle, but it's moving, right? And you understand the plight of like African American people growing up in a country where they are thought of as less than, right? And if it's done right, you really understand the plight of the people. You understand what a struggle it is for other people or what their issues are, because everyone has struggles, right? Even rich people. Like you watch Downton Abbey, and you can see like being a royal person is really stressful and kind of sucky. Like all these ideas you have of the fantasy of happily ever after. You see anything on rich people, you realize their lives kind of suck, especially these royal class people that live under all these incredibly oppressive social rules. Like even like the crown, you understand what it's like to be born in the royal family, and it's well done. And so, the lack of that kind of content for Palestinian people, like they don't really exist, right? We know almost nothing about them. And, only since I've been a truther and I did a little research and, I knew nothing about the history of Palestine and Israel. I knew nothing. Like I knew there was a conflict. The one person I know is Yasser Arafat from when I was a kid. He's, I think, dead now. That's the only Palestinian person I know. Like I can't name another person. And, that speaks volume of the difference in power and all of it, right? The Palestinian people are like NPCs. They're considered evil by most people. And, in terms of the Judeo-Christian beliefs that in America and, elsewhere in Europe, and, nobody really knows about them and their plight and the other things about it. And so, Kennedy doing that, when he's somebody who, is supposed to be speaking truth to power. Like Kennedy is a big guy about critical thinking skills, and he's the critical thinking candidate. Like he talks in a way where other people talk in bumper stickers and in a dumbed down way. All the other politicians are catering to dumb people, the idiocracy. Their campaign ads are so remedial. Their talking points, they're there to arouse people's emotions, fear, and anger, which I talk about. The Democrats are campaign with anger, which creates fear in the Democratic people listening, and the Republicans are a fear-based. They use a fear-based campaign strategy. The fear creates anger in their followers, but it's really stupid stuff, and it's all, like I said, bumper stickers and without explanation, and stories and things that are just there to evoke emotions, and they're not real. They're not like real people. And Bobby Kennedy was authentic in his campaigning, and he talked about being there for critical thinking people. And there's not everybody in the truth community isn't a critical thinker. There are a lot of dopes in the truth community, but you have to be a little bit of a critical thinker to be a truther. And there's a lot of critical thinking truthers, more so than in other groups. There are sheeple in the truth community, lots of sheeple in the QB movement, the Trumpers and things. But there's lots of critical thinkers. And like I said in my original video, we're not the best people to get along with or to form an organization. And, people are very, you just see the way the truthers talk to each other and get into fights and battles and, divided group and, all the hostility that comes through and all of it, right? Like truthers are, kind of suck for the most part as people. And, we don't get along. Like I'm a loner and I'm a, like in most cases I would just be a pain in the ass. Like in my personality type, like it'd just be a negative, right? But at this particular time, like I have value, right? My personality configuration has value, the way I perceive the world, because of the world's going through a collapse and things, and my connection to God and spiritual, the spiritual aspect of my life and things. So it's valuable only because of the time period that we're entering into an apocalypse. But for the most part, truthers are not the greatest group to go to, to create an organization and try to accomplish something. Like you need people who get along with people. You need people who are role players, and the truth community just doesn't have that so much, right? But in terms of Bobby Kennedy's support, like we would be instrumental. Like he isn't going to get elected just with truthers. He wouldn't get elected with just appealing to truthers, but he isn't going to win without us. Like he wouldn't win without us, just like Trump, right? Trump can't win without the truth community. Like there's such a narrow margin of victory for them. And the truth community, we get it done. We get information out there. We get people, people are with critical thinking skills, who Bobby Kennedy says he's after, right? The one thing that we're good at is getting information out there. We find ways, no matter how much they try to deplatform us and ban us and whatever it is, we find ways of getting the information out. And that's essential in this new model of internet being a pivotal part of being a successful candidate. And having critical thinkers is so much better that when you can convince people on a level where you can connect with them on a deeper level than people who just want it easy, like the people who are, mainstream Democrats and mainstream Republicans, and they just want to hear you say the old whatever it is, the taglines, and they want you to just paint by the numbers. They're not deep people. They're not being persuaded on a deeper level. They just want you to represent the party that they've already been indoctrinated into, and if it's a part of their life, right? They're not ever choosing it. They grew up as Democrats and Republicans or whatever it might be, and they made their decision in college in which their political views are, and they don't want to think about it. They don't want to be challenged. They don't want to critical think about it. They just want somebody who's going to check all the boxes. Those people are weak. Those people are worthless. Those people aren't going to fight for you. They're not going to they're just paint by the numbers NPCs. But truthers, the ones that are aware and awake, and the ones that have their own critical thinking skills, it's a whole different level of what they can contribute. And even on a consciousness level, they have more value. We have more value because we're more aware, more awake. We're more our consciousness is on a higher level than people who are sheeple that just are walking through life as an NPC with no real thought about what they're doing, and they're just drudging through their miserable routines and their miserable lives, and eventually just waiting to die, right, without any real just original thinking or just thinking outside the box or any of it. And so truthers are valuable to have. And Kennedy was very popular in the truth community. He was doing really well, exceptionally well. For someone like me who is never going to vote again, who doesn't believe the system should be saved, I liked the way he was running his campaign. You guys, watch my videos, understand what they talked about. And, you have to win people over like us, you have to appeal to on a higher level of consciousness. And Kennedy was doing that, right? But those people aren't going to just accept some BS, because he got labeled as anti-Semitic, and he comes out with this unbelievably dishonest and, weird shillery type of, take on the Palestinian-Israel conflict. Truthers are just not going to, you lose truthers forever when you do stuff like that, right? And not just that he's, I can understand he had to say something. He can't fight everybody. Like he's fighting, Big Pharma and the Democratic Party and mainstream media and everybody. Like he's, got all these battles, the CIA and all of it, right? And so, he can't fight everybody, like all these powerful groups. And so I can understand where, like, he didn't want to be known as an anti-Semite. So he had to do damage control, and I'm fine with that. Whatever he had to say to make sure people didn't know he was a racist and an anti-Semite, the way that the Democrats were trying to create these narratives of him being some right-wing racist who was against black people and Asian people and Jewish people, because he needs those groups as well, and he doesn't want to be seen as that. So, sure, he had to say something, and if he had connections with the Jewish community and done work with them and whatever, I'm fine with all that. But he went in so hard and so I mean, it was such a icky, this what he did there, right? And you guys who saw my video know what I'm talking about. And then to say he was going to use his platform to push this narrative, which we know it's false. It's a false narrative. That it is a propagandized narrative that's covering up an abusive relationship and the things that are going on there in Israel and what used to be Palestine. And I don't think it's wise for him or any candidate to include the Palestinian-Israel conflict in their platform. Like that was when I was a kid. Like peace of the Middle East was but that ship has sailed because of all the other things that have happened in the Middle East and the illegal wars in Libya and all this stuff, right? And the way that Muslim people have been portrayed in in Hollywood and these other places, and the anti-Muslim sentiment. I mean, it's just, and there's always going to be something with anti-Semitism with people who don't like Jewish people. There's always going to be that because that's, there's a powerful lobbying group and lots of money and, all of that. So, like, staying away from that is wise. It's, there's no real benefit politically. It's just very polarizing and triggering. But Kennedy has inserted himself in this in a way that's, it's like he just said, all right, I'm just going to tank my campaign right now. Because, again, truthers and critical thinkers that are truthers are not going to tolerate this kind of thing, right? You won us over by your authenticity and your ability to be on the right side of everything or your issues, at least, be in the adjacent area of what we believe in and what, the mainstream media is trying to cover up on all these issues, and especially to do with the COVID stuff and the rest of it. And again, we're not going to agree on everything, but if we like the way that you think and we can see that you're an actual, a person that wants to be fair and wants to, do a good job and be outside the box and not just be your average politician, that's why, he won us over. Those of us in the truth community that were seeing that there was a difference with him. And what he did there was just destroy all of that, right? And the truth community is valuable, and it's hard to please, right? It's both valuable and hard to please because we're not just going to be won over by bumper sticker slogans, because I don't have to vote, and I don't even want to vote. And many of us, believe in the left-right paradigm. And so if you're going to engage the truth community, and I'm not just talking about the dopey Trumpers or the QBs or people who are, still just Republicans, just extreme Republicans, or the far left woke people who are always going to be on the Democratic side. I'm talking about people who are, thinking about things and reasonable and are outside the box and are not accepting the official narrative in the groups, the boxes that they're trying to put us all in. And it's valuable to have people like that. And Kennedy had them. Like Kennedy had the truth community just pissed it away. In just one horrible interview that, I don't understand the decision-making behind it. But anyways, that's just the introduction. Let's move on to the central point of this video. Okay, just a little plug for my Gratefulness Meditation channel for those of you doing Gratefulness Meditation. I came across something, the esoteric symbol. There's a star. You can see the symbol there. And, something that I used in the past in Sajmarg meditation that I hadn't thought about really in years. Came back up and I made a video about it. People are using it and experimenting with it, which is a good thing. And so I thought I would let everyone know there's a new video. There'll be another one today on it on the Gratefulness Meditation channel. This is Roger Ailes, the disgraced and now dead Roger Ailes, who had a lifelong friendship from a young age, like they met when they were 21, on a trip to Africa with RFK Jr. RFK Jr. talks about this. Bobby Kennedy talks about this in his interviews.
Willie Horton raised his head. People were saying,
how did Bobby get involved with the guy? That was I never had anything to do with that. That was
really? You took the rap for it.
I did. I took the heat, but I really never did. But at any rate, what was interesting, we did spend 1973. I think we spent time over there in Africa, and you captured this bird. I don't know whether it was a falcon.
It was
or
an auger buzzard.
Was it?
It's
It was a buzzard.
just like the American red-tailed hawk.
Okay, and I'd come to your room in the hotel, and this thing would be sitting on your arm, and you'd be staring at it for a long time. Is there some trick to staring at these birds? Is it, what are you, hypnotizing it? Or?
Trying to get them to eat off my fist, and that's one of the initial steps in training them.
You see, his voice was a lot different. He had a normal voice, a good speaking voice. But he's been afflicted with that condition, and he also is calmer here. He has some idiosyncratic movements now, like nervous twitches and things. But you can see this is how he used to speak. It's kind of interesting. This friendship he's had with this guy. I mean, he's got a lot of interesting things about his life. He's a falconer. He's talking about that here.
Oh, if they do that, then they start to tame or something?
Right.
But we took it out and you let it fly away. I remember.
Right.
Yeah. We were there with a great man who was a great friend of yours, Lemoyne Billings.
So anyways, that's Bobby Kennedy early on. I'm going to move on to the Trump thing now. So the Tim Ballard podcast, he had Trump on. Look at him go. Look at him go face to face.
Hey, everybody, welcome to a very special episode of the Tim Ballard Podcast. Here we are at one of the top golf clubs in the nation at Bedminster, here with the 45th President of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump.
Thank
Mr.
you
President,
very much.
thank you
Well, thank you.
for being our guest.
We just saw a great.
He's just a shell of the fish boy. He's just a shell of what he was years ago. I mean, these years of not being president and all that has taken. He's aged differently now. He has less life force. I mean, it's just not as bad as Jojo Magoo, but certainly, he isn't what he used to be.
Great movie and unbelievable. And Jim, you were really.
It wasn't believable. When you watch that movie, you're like, this is horse poop. That's just not believable. Like, I mean, I watched it. I'm like, this isn't true. This is a movie. It's completely unbelievable.
Incredible.
Thank you.
And you in real life were really incredible. So I want to thank you on behalf of a lot of people. Fantastic job.
Thank you. What was your favorite scene of the film?
I think the start, the ending, and maybe the result was what I liked. That was a great result. That was a hard-earned result, though. The two young children, you have thousands and hundreds of thousands out there. It's so sad to see.
Yeah.
But it was really something very special. It's been a great success, the movie, and now I see why.
Well, thank you so much. There's a scene in the film that at the southern border at the port of entry.
Yeah.
They filmed that scene when the van comes across and we get the little boy out of there. That's a very true story. They filmed on location at the Calexico, California East Port of Entry. And when they filmed this, we weren't struggling as we are today. It's almost like God waited for the right time to drop this because the whole film kicks off with kids being trafficked into the United States. What's your perspective on the border now and where it was during your administration?
So as you know, the border was very successful, relatively speaking at least. It was the most
Successful. He was successful with the border.
successful it's ever been. It's incredibly bad right now. It's worse. You can magnify it times 10 or 12 times, they say. It's so sad to see what's happened. And that includes trafficking, it includes drugs, it includes everything. People coming in from all over the world, they're pouring into our country. They're coming from prisons, they're coming from mental institutions, they're terrorists. We have a terrible group of people running our country, and it's never been like this. The border's never been worse. You guys would understand that?
See, this is what I was talking about before. That to stop human trafficking, you need all hands on board. You can't have a division in human trafficking, right? Trump is a divisive figure. And, he's taken this approach that the Democrats are evil, the Cubies have taken this approach. And the Republicans have a long list of atrocities, including the neocons and the illegal wars under George W. Bush, and then going all the way back through Reagan and then just for years and years. And then pushing the military-industrial complex and being in power, and the Christian right, pushing back against people of differing points of view, shutting them down, and deplatforming them back when they held positions of power, the media and the rest of it. Back when America was more influenced by the conservative ideology and Christian conservatives, which has given birth to this problem now with this, this liberal monster that's out of control now that they have the power. Things always are created in a vacuum. And so, going with this us against them, and so many people in the truth community have it, which is fine. I'm not a people person. I don't want to have a kumbaya moment. I don't, you know what I mean? I'm an introvert and a loner, and I'm not out there reaching out to people, and, I'm not doing any of those things. But I don't have a cause like this, right? Certainly I have the spiritual stuff I do here, and that's open to anybody. And, you can do the meditation, and it's regardless of your belief system or anything like that. It's not my thing. It's not my thing to disclude people. God isn't my thing or anybody's thing. Religions say God is theirs. God isn't owned or copyrighted by a religion. God is there for everybody. God is everywhere. God is in us and everybody else and everything else. And so that's everything that's between you and God is a personal, God is a personal pursuit. It can be done collectively, like we can do it collectively together, but each person has to do it personally. Each person has to connect to God directly, personally. And so that is a universal, it is a big tent concept that everybody's welcome. And, when you make certain groups evil, when you say, all right, these are we're the good guys and they're the bad guys, then, and there's division and conflict, the oppositional opinion on both sides is full of hate and vitriol, you don't get anything done. And so if you want to stop something like human trafficking, you have to do something differently. And bringing in Trump here, and again, the QB movement and all these things, and Trump had plenty of opportunities, and, he's rubbed elbows with, he's friends with Jeffrey Epstein, these other people, and he made a statement that Jeffrey Epstein liked young girls. Like he was talking about Jeffrey Epstein likes to party, likes young girls. And, we know what he meant by that because he knew. He knew. And he didn't do anything about it. But all of a sudden now he's this guy because he's embracing the QBs in this movie. But he didn't ever campaign on this, and he never did anything against human trafficking. He had 4 years as president and a whole lifetime as a wealthy man to do something about this, and he didn't, right? I mean, even his relationship with Stormy Daniels, he had these basically prostitutes. Another woman was a Playboy centerfold that he put up in an apartment. He was married, and he had these women on the side that were basically prostitutes he had financial arrangements with, porn stars and, playmates and basically hookers, right? Which is a form of human trafficking.
As well as I would. The border's never been more open. And when you have open borders like that, you have trafficking at a level that you've never seen before. So much different than when you and I previously met.
See, a level that you've never seen before. These are Trump phrases, like they don't mean anything, right? It's not quantifiable. It's just, oh yeah, okay. It's like a level you've never seen before, right? It's something that appeals to people, but it's not, it's just bumper sticker. It's just bumper sticker talk.
And very sad to see it's gone so bad. We'll turn it around, but it's really very terrible to see.
So when you were in charge of the border, I remember them saying that your policies were both racist, no compassion from President Trump on these foreign children. And I look today and I'm in awe because the only compassionate policy is enforcement.
Yeah.
These children, Jim, what you were telling me, you saw the testimony of Ms. Rodas, right, from
Yes.
Health and Human Services.
April 26th.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, she gave her testimony.
Whistleblower, right?
Oh, yeah. And, she's submitted evidence as well. And the next day in the media, it wasn't even covered, like it never happened. I think the media is responsible as well as ignoring the south border. We don't have a country without a border.
Yeah. 85,000, Mr. President, 85,000 unaccompanied minors during the Joe Biden administration showed up and were released into the belly of the United States, which is the #1 consumer of child exploitation material in the world.
Okay. Okay. I've made a lot of content in the last couple of days. Hours of content on my 3 hours of content here on the Kennedy thing, and then another hour yesterday, which I didn't mean the video to go that long, on my other channel. And then, like I showed you, more content on my Gratefulness meditation channel. So my voice is holding up, but I just gotta, making more content isn't great for, people can't keep up with it. So I want to limit this, and I've moved past the whole Sound of Freedom thing. That's, to me, a dead issue. I saw this interview, and it's everything I talk about in terms of division and accomplishing goals. So if your goal is to get rid of human trafficking, right? You don't talk about Biden sucking. You don't talk about the left sucking. You don't disparage other people who might end up being allies. You have to find a way to reach across the aisle and connect with them to, even if Trump wins presidency, he's going to have to work with Democrats, which he's failed to do because of his, their obsession, negative obsession with him and his dickishness, right? And, this is what I'm talking about when I say it's not going to be effective, because is your goal to stop human trafficking, or is your goal to disparage Biden and the people on the other side? Because Biden sucks. I mock him all day long. But if I wanted to accomplish something that involved needing the majority of people to get on board, like they're talking about how the mainstream media isn't covering this topic, well, then you got to figure a way that they will, right? And doing it in a subversive, they're the evil ones, we got to get rid of them before we end up doing anything on human trafficking, isn't going to work, right? Like, this is a two-party system, and if you're going to use politics and the media as a way to establish some sort of, to create some sort of plan to end human trafficking, then you got to start bringing people together. You have to be a uniter. And this movie is divisive, and the movement is divisive. And the Cubies are some of the most divisive people. I mean, if you look at the extreme left being one side of the most divisive, one group that's most divisive, the Cubies on the other side, right? I watched this movie called Eastern Promises, I think 2 nights ago. And it starred Viggo Mortensen, the guy who played Aragorn in The Lord of the Rings, and Naomi Watts. And I've seen a few things with Naomi Watts in the past year, like obscure movies. There's one where she went hiking, and she was like a person who, helped rescue people. It was like in New Hampshire or something, up some mountain. People who, they're good hikers themselves, and they are, they have equipment they bring to the hike. She rescued this guy. It was based on a true story. Kind of interesting movie. But I think she's in quality movies like Viggo Mortensen is. And it looked like a drama, and I was like, I don't know if I want to watch this. It was a crime thing. It says it was suspense, but what it was is about human trafficking. It was a movie that was made in 2007. And she plays a nurse in which, and a spoiler alert, and I'm not recommending the movie. She plays a nurse who, a young, either Ukrainian or Russian woman, 14-year-old. She was 14 years old, but she got AR'd, a woman who was taken from Russia and brought to England to be a prostitute. And she's pregnant and she's bleeding. She comes in and she dies, and the baby's there. And she left behind a diary that was written in Russian. And she has a stepfather or uncle who speaks Russian, but he doesn't want to translate it at first. So she brings it to a restaurant, And the guy at the restaurant is the guy who was doing the human trafficking. So he's translating the diary, and it's about him. And in the diary, it said that she was 14 years old, and the restaurant owner's son, who's a real thug, was beating her up and, trying to train her to be a prostitute or whatever. And he tried to R her, but he couldn't because he was gay. And like that develops in the plot. But then this restaurant owner, this older Russian man, comes down and R's her, and then she's pregnant with his baby, right? He's like, 70s or something like this, right? So, this goes on from there. Viggo Mortensen plays like a KGB agent who is there to get rid of this human trafficking ring and infiltrate this crime ring that's taking people from Russia and doing these things. And there's this movie called The Whistleblower, which was about Kosovo and how the UN was involved with human trafficking. This had to do with Russia and England, and there's all these various places around the world. Something like 28 million people are actual slaves, and then there's all the other people that are, basically slaves, right? Wage slaves, and there's just this level of just exploiting and dominance and imposing your will on other people. And at the center of it is an abusive mentality. And Trump has that mentality. Trump is softer and has a better heart than Joe Biden. Joe Biden, both of them are puppets in their own way. But they both are rich and powerful men that are linked to these other groups and influential groups. And those are the people that they cater to. Those are the people that are their peers. Those are the people that are important to them, not average people. Like they, when they're politicians, they come out and they come up with these bumper sticker slogans and they say whatever they say. But they're sucky people, right? They're not, that's just BS. They're not concerned about the average person. And humanity would have to be stripped down from its hedonistic and narcissistic and egotistical ways of just the way that we treat nature, the way that we treat animal life, the way we treat our food, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, the way we treat each other, the way that, we think about our lives, the force that we impose our wills and do things that go against the natural order of things, the divine order. We all would have to confront that personally. We'd have to be ripped down. Our whole social system, our economic system would have to be stripped away. And we'd have to, have a come to Jesus moment, and by that I mean a come to God moment, not to Jesus, but to God internally. And we'd have to change everything about ourselves. And then this abuse and slavery and exploitation of other people and things would disappear. But that's what it would take. If you really wanted to get rid of it, it's not just changing a president or a political party or making a movie or being upset about it and talking about how bad it is. You have to basically break everything, rip everything, destroy everything that we know as human life and begin again and do it the right way, involve God. And you'd have to get rid of massive amount of negative souls and negative people that are, they're not going to change. They'd have to be excluded from life on planet Earth. You'd have to have a massive die-off, population reduction, and only the good souls would be allowed to incarnate in. These negative souls or negative people with negative tendencies and abusive tendencies and things would have to be excluded from this new humanity. It would have to come from a place where you want to redeem yourself personally. Each person wants to redeem themselves and the shame and the embarrassment of what we created and what we participated in here. And this modern day life and the way it was, just against God's will and destroying environments and, just the depravity of all of it, right? And you can't go, oh, I'm fine, I'm great. We just got to change these other people. We're all a part of a system where at the bottom end there is so much evil, abuse and child trafficking and twisted, sociopathic, murderous behaviors and all of it. At the bottom end of our system, which we're all a part of that system, right? It's a reflection of our whole system. the poverty, the degraded nature, the lack of love and caring and empathy and compassion, and just the selfishness, and how people are willing to just kill other people or kill environments and destroy environments for their own political and desire-based goals and lifestyle, and just egotistical. I mean, people will get in wars of ego and start war, like a king or a ruler will start a war based in their ego, and like Joe Biden droning kids, and all these things, all the stuff that Trump's done that's so selfish, and even his pursuit of presidency after his rolling out Operation Warp Speed, all these things that they do, right? Getting money from big pharma or whatever it might be. It's just a corruption and a self-centered evil, willing to do evil for your personal gain, as long as you get something out of it, right? And we all participate in this evil system. And in the bottom end of the system is all this stuff. But all the other parts of the system contribute and, funnel down to that bottom level of human trafficking and murder and, wars and all of it. And so we'd all have to be willing to change in ways that none of us are willing. And that's why I say just shut the boop up, right? Talking about how outraged you are or how upset you are and how, everyone else is a shill and all the things that Cubies did. When you're willing to go to the depths of willing to give up all of your lifestyle, give up everything that you enjoy and, you depend on in terms of the modern day lifestyle, and willing to scrap all that to make this world a better place and get rid of human trafficking or whatever, one thing you're focused on, then you can talk, right? Then you can talk about how everyone else sucks or whatever. If you're willing to do it, and if you're willing to do it, you have to go do it, right? Like not just pretending or saying it, but actually, in your heart willing to get rid of all the ways that evil plays a role in your life, from the debt-based economy to the content that you watch to the the products and corporations you support to, your clothing, your food, your internet and all the things. So you have to be willing to get rid of all that stuff and then rethink your whole life and approach to it and start doing things only that God would give you permission to do. Not that God is some overbearing overlord, but you would ask God's permission, your soul's permission, to do things that align with the divine laws and principles. And it would be really hard. Life would be really hard if you got rid of all the things, all the shortcuts, all the stuff that's just not divine, that's demonic. Like most of our life and system is demonic. It's ego based, and it goes away from the divine laws and principles. And so when you're willing to do that, then you really want change. You're so upset about the way that life is. Buddha, Siddhartha, the prince, he walked out. He was, he was kept away from all the darkness of life. He was a, prince who lived in a castle, and he had only the beautiful and the best of what life can offer. And he was forbidden to go out in the streets and see how miserable everyone else was. And he went out there, and I'm not a Buddhist, I'm just saying this is a story. He went out there and he saw like dead people, and he smelled the rotten, the rotting flesh and the smells of poverty and the sights and sounds of poverty, and he couldn't believe how miserable, like the condition that people lived in. And he renounced his princeship, his royal title, and he went out into the woods and meditated and wanted to find a way to solve all of these problems. And that's not the way to go about it, but it's an example of what I'm talking about. Because you don't become a spiritual person to solve the world's problems. That happens. If everyone was spiritual, that would happen, but that's a side effect. You become a spiritual person because you want to be the best version of yourself, the version that God would be proud of. When God created you, you have the high end of your capacity. You have the low end, which is a selfish, egotistical person, a depraved person, a self-centered person, and then you have a saint that, an inner self with a capital S, where you embrace your higher nature and you become a servant for God and you live a selfless life of devoting yourself to other people and to God's purposes here on earth. God's plan, right? You leave behind your egotistical pursuits and you work for God exclusively. And so there's a potential to do that. And when you do that, you stop contributing to the evil and you only do good things. And then if everybody did that, all this stuff would disappear. But people don't want to do that. They've had the opportunity. We've had the opportunity over and over again, not only in this life, but past lives. Human beings have all the ability to embrace their divine nature. And we've proven over and over again we don't want to do that. We are attracted to the lower. And that's a tragedy of the human experience. Of course, it's the Kali Yuga, so it's even more so now. But it's there, right? And people who really want change have to, figure that out. They have to confront themselves with that. And I'm not saying in some way like I'm doing this or I've done, I'm not. Like I half-ass it. Like, I put some effort into connecting to God and doing God's work and being a conduit for God here and in the Gratefullness meditation, the Saj Marg meditation I've done. But I'm not all about it, right? I'm, I don't know what percentage breakdown it is. And so, I know how tough it is and I know that, my commitment could be much greater than it is. Every spiritual person, every person that's working a little bit to connect to God is at least doing something, but we're not doing all that we could do. And so that's why I'm, whatever. Like, but when I hear these holier than thou people who want to condemn, other groups or other political parties or whatever, they all suck. I mean, we see it. They're not your savior. They're not here for good. They're all power-hungry people that are leading us down a deviant path, a demonic path. And none of them is getting it done. Prayers always help. If you do pray, great. That's something. That's at least something, right? There's nothing, bad about that. Praying for suffering of other people, great. Keep on doing that. But witnessing what's going on and sending the information back to God so that there'll be, there's always going to be an external force. There's going to be, an oppositional force. So when evil is pervasive, then there has to be a spiritual movement that is created to, to meet the evil. Like if there's a spiritual good system, then evil will grow, and it's just the binary nature of life on planet Earth. And so there's always going to be a counter movement. But in terms of this movie and Trump and the right-wing element and the Cubies and the so-called truth movement, they're not on the side of good. They're not on the side of God. They think they are, but they're not. And certainly the Democrats and the liberals aren't. And so there isn't anybody in the mainstream and even the truth community in terms of being a movement that's embracing God's will, that's accepting, the truth of the subject, which is the truth of the problem at hand, which is our system that we all enjoy, and at least we're scared to not have it because we're dependent on it, is evil in its primary nature. It's evil in its bones and its fundamental building blocks, and it goes against the divine will. And we have to shed this system, and we don't have to kill it or destroy it because it'll destroy itself, but we have to allow it to happen and then embrace something else. And most people aren't willing to even consider that. So there you go. Okay, party people. I was going to end the video there. I was editing it, and I was just about to render the video and upload it. When I was reading through the comments on my other channel, my Apocalypse Now channel, the video I talked about earlier, egregious RFK Jr. position on Palestine mirrors Larry David's curb. I should have just said, your enthusiasm, I seem to have enough room. I didn't think I would. For the title, you only get 100 characters. That's why sometimes my titles are cut off. But this person left a doozy of a comment. Paul, this is the first time I'm offended to the max. It's the first time I am offended to the max. Yes, I'm Jewish. And you always take the side against the Jews. I've been listening to you for 8 years. I'm going to read that line again. So this person just said, Paul, this person who's been listening to me for 8 years just said, Paul, this is the first time I am offended to the max. Yes, I am Jewish, and you always take the side against the Jews. So this is the first time me taking the side against the Jews is offending you? Is that what you're saying? Commenter who never gets offended, and this time she's offended to the max, even though I always take the sides against the Jews. Name one other time I've taken the side against the Jews. Name one other time. Name one other time when I talk about Jewish people or Israel in my videos. Name one other time. Like, I've been doing this for 8 years, and I explained why in my other videos. There's a lot of people who hate Jews and blame Jews for everything. I ban all those people when they leave comments. Anybody hating Jews in my comment section gets banned, or hating blacks or any group of people. Singling out any group of people. It hurts the truth community, and it's something I don't want. I don't want people like that watching my videos. Anybody who blames some specific group in a derogatory way is an auto ban on my channel. And I don't cover things like this for that reason. I don't want Jew haters on my channel. Say it all the time. And it's clear from my actions that that's my policy. I supported Kyrie Irving because he posted something, and I said I didn't like the movie that he posted. I didn't like it because it sucked. Hebrews to Negroes. I thought it was a poorly made movie. It was unwatchable. I didn't think it was a good movie. But it was up on Amazon, that is run by a trillionaire, the world's first trillionaire, Jeff Bezos, and they didn't ask Amazon to take it down. They didn't want Kyrie Irving to tweet about it, and they were trying to cancel him, and they were trying to bully him. And, there was the new CEO of Amazon is Jeff, something disaster or something like that. I have his name right here. I just looked him up. He is a person he has Jewish with Hungarian ancestry. And he is the CEO of Amazon and the world's supposed richest man. And they didn't come down on them for having the movie available on their website. It was about bullying Kyrie Irving. And the other part about it is that you can't criticize Israel and Jewish people the way that you criticize everyone else. And this is a good example of that, right? Because I am what I consider fair here. And I am, against hate because of all the things I've said about it. I've talked about how hate is inside you and it makes you feel bad, and it's not something that you want to indulge in. I mean, no one should. You might want to do it, but it's bad for you. And I've given all the reasons why for it. And so I don't, want it to proliferate on my channel. The only other thing that I can remember saying where, the person says I took that, let me see what they said here again. Let me read that part again. It says, you always take the side against the Jews. And so, and I didn't do that with Kyrie Irving. First of all, let's establish that. Kyrie Irving stood up and didn't get the boop. And so he is somebody that I'm going to support just for that one act. I was very critical of Kyrie Irving before for his Illuminati shoes and some of the other things he did. And, he talked about, he was a flat earther for a while. I mean, some of the things he did before, I made critical videos of him. But him standing up and being harassed the way he was, and nobody's apologized because, he is, it was, the mandates were ruled illegal, the mandates that he was against that cost him $17 million of salary and more in endorsements. And he's still criticized as being selfish and a jerk for that in the world of the NBA, pundit world. And so that was about Kyrie Irving and them targeting him. It just happened to be about a tweet that they said he was anti-Semitic. And this idea of everyone being anti-Semitic and you not being able to criticize Israel or Jewish people. And again, I don't like criticizing a group of people based on their demographic. It's something I'm not comfortable with. But certainly Israel as a country you can criticize. And every country, I criticize America all the time. I pretty much criticize every country. And there's things that you can criticize about every government, every country. And, there's so much pushback from the Jewish community, which backfires. The Kyrie Irving thing hurt Jewish people. The other thing is I've talked about how I have friends and, associates and people who the preceptor who was, my preceptor who started me doing the Sajmarg meditation years ago. That was Jewish. People were Jewish in my life, whatever. And, I don't like it when people are targeting the whole group of anybody, especially when I have friends and people I know who are good people, like are people who don't deserve to be maligned for the actions of their leaders or their country or something like that, right? Every country has good people in it. Every demographic has good people in it. And when you target groups of people and saying that they're all like that or whatever, that's a problem because it's not true. It's never true. There's people like me, and I don't mean them like, people like my personality configuration. In every group, there's people just like me. And we probably wouldn't get along with each other, right? Because that's the kind of personality we have. But there's good people, nice people, positive people in every group. And I make very, very clear to, distinguish between those two things. The only other time that I am, you could say I took the side against them, and I didn't, against Israel, is when I made my 3 videos about the big event in 2001. And, I've changed and have grown as a video maker since then. But I included some information, like there's these guys, I think they're called the 5 Dancing Israelis. And they were young Israeli men, possibly in Mossad or doing some sort of governmental work. And they were there, the big event in New York City. And they were seen filming the buildings, and if you know what I'm talking about, when the big events happened, and they danced and high-fived and were holding up lighters and, partying like it was 2001, and they were celebrating what happened in New York City, and it seemed like they had pre-knowledge of what was going to happen, and they were sent to document it. They had like a video camera mounted on a tripod or something, and it was pointed right at the buildings, and they were filmed by people in apartments dancing and celebrating, and they were later arrested by a cop. They ran a red light. They were in a van. One of them had like $6,000 in cash stuffed in his sock. It was like very shady. And they said when they were arrested, no, we're not the ones. We're from Israel. Your enemies are Palestinians, and now you can go smash the Palestinians after they did this thing that just happened. They were blaming the big event on Palestinians. And again, I haven't looked at this story in years, but there's other information that it looks like that Israel was either a party to or was at least had pre-knowledge of what was going to happen. And I included that in my documentary. There's other things I'm forgetting here. And then there was the attack on the USS Liberty, which I talked about. And as an American, and I'm usually not like this, I'm usually, open to being compassionate for the, American treatment of Libyans and Gaddafi in Iraq and these things, the military war machine. But this was where the American military Navy was a victim because they had a unarmed vessel that was bombarded and torpedoed by the Israeli army for various reasons. And that was never, that's a story that you can go look that up yourself and form your own opinion, right? But certainly no one would characterize what I'm saying here as being off base and malicious. So this person saying they're offended to the max. So let's go back to the comment here and start over. Paul, this is the first time I am offended to the max, and yes, I'm Jewish, and you always take the side against the Jews. I've been listening to you for 8 years or so. I think you do not know what you're talking about in this case of the chicken storyline yes, I'm Jewish, and yes, there was a real chicken place that this story was based on. The name is called Zankua. For as far as Israel, as far as Israel, have you been to Israel? This is not what I was talking about in any of these videos. I was giving you just raw statistics. They say this: have you been to the West Bank? Have you been here? No, and I don't want to go. Like, I'm not going there. I don't cover this like I'm some expert on the region. But if you had to assess as a maker of videos, I mean, just think about the position that Americans are in to do with Israel and Pakistan, right? We have to make, if those of us who use critical thinking skills, I don't really care about it, but because Bobby Kennedy came out and said things that I knew not to be true. And it was just, I mean, if you actually believe what he's saying and the picture he painted of Israel, I know enough about things that Israel has done, and I've seen enough video clips of the abuse and the harassment that these Palestinian people have suffered, and I'm sure there's some clips of the opposite happening too that you watch as a Jewish person to be outraged. And so whatever, there's a conflict there. And so how do we know which party is the abuser, or which party is, maybe of the two, of Israel and the Palestinian people, the Israelis and the Palestinian people, or the governments, which is the abuser offender, if there is one? Is it an equal, set of crimes, or is it one-sided? And what I listed in the beginning of this video and the other videos is the disparity between army, economy, support, and media here in America. And I was spot on about Larry David, because there is no Palestinian version of Larry David. There is no Palestinian version of anything. I have not seen one show where the lead character is Palestinian, and such a show wouldn't be allowed to exist in America. I'm sure there's people who would like to put on such a show, but I've never seen one, right? And so Larry David is in a position of power where there's a lot of power. The Jewish community has a lot of power and say what happens in Hollywood. There's lots of movies about the Holocaust, not a lot of movies about what's going on from the Palestinians' point of view. How is an American going to see the Palestinians' point of view? From the news that doesn't cover it, from politicians that all back Israel, to who? Who's going to speak up for the Palestinians? And it's not me. This is not my life's mission. But I do get to have an opinion on it, and I can do my own research, and I did. And I think I nailed it like I nail everything else. That I'm, again, I realize that I don't have all the facts and experience. I'm not an expert on the subject, but I am the expert on the subject of abuse and power dynamics. And that's how I looked at this, and the overwhelming power, and I know you don't want to say it and admit to it as a Jewish person because you want to be a victim. Like, this is, the one thing that I have a problem with Israel and the Jewish culture is the constant victimization, the constant claiming to be victims, and in a state of it's a model that has been used by so many different groups now to say that you're targeted all the time. And, there is hate. Yeah, I agree with that. People hate you. I see it all the time. I'm not going to deny you that there's people that comment on my videos all the time that is hateful towards Jewish people. That does exist, right? But also what makes it worse is to constantly be characterizing yourself and your people as victims when there's a lot of power in your, money power and political power and entertainment power and media power. The Jewish community has been very successful. Jewish people have been very successful in reaching the top levels in all of those fields. The economy, politics, entertainment, and news media. There's been lots of people who are Jewish who have been in charge of these mega organizations and are overrepresented. In a population that's very small, it's something like 2-3% of the people in America, even less maybe, that are Jewish. And then you have 50% of the producer in Hollywood, or 30%. That's by demographics, you are doing really well as a group, as a people. And I'm against victim consciousness. And if you're a godly person, and this is a religion after all that has a punishing God at the center of this religion, a vengeful, wrathful God, that you would blame God for your mistreatment and not other people. As bad as other people suck, at some point you have to look at God. If you're, that God has a plan, and God is responsible for everything that happens, even the crappy people that abuse you or mistreat you. If you're going to be mad at God. This is the way that that's how I conduct myself in my life, right? Well, ultimately, I might get mad at this person or that person, very seldomly now as they've gotten older. But I always bring it back to God. Like, did God make a mistake? Or is this something that I am supposed to be experiencing? When you're going through something that seems unfair, if you look at it that way, and then, that's why I always say be grateful, because be grateful to God, especially for, in the Sajmark tradition, miseries as divine blessings, miseries that help you evolve spiritually, trials and tribulations that help you become a better person and bring you closer to God. And it burns off some scars and these things I've talked about extensively in my Journey series videos. Okay, let's wrap this comment up here. I got to find it again. Here we go. It says, I'm Jewish, and yes, there was a real chicken place that the story was based on. The name is called Zancor. I was saying that they had hostile pictures on the wall towards Israel. And I don't, I would doubt that was the case. If they're saying free Palestine, that's one thing. But the other things were inflammatory. And even if there was one place that had those on there, it wasn't fair of Larry David to categorize all the people, the Palestinian people in his storyline, as all wanting the extinction of the Jewish people. Like, every Palestinian person is a violent, hateful person that just wants to extinguish all Jewish people. Like, that's not accurate. It's just, it's not. Like, there might be some, yeah, sure. It's a conflict. They hate each other, sure. There's groups of people. And they feel like they're abused and they're being victimized. I mean, whatever it is. It's not every one of them is violent, terrorist type person. And that's how they're being categorized. So the person says, as far from Israel, have you been to Israel? No, because you're clueless. How important it is. America is there as the only place they can go, that they can go, we get into a war. Enough of that, by the way. What was that sentence? No, because you're clueless how important it is to America is there. How important it is to America is there. What does that mean? That Israel is important to America? Because it's not, right? Like, it's, America would survive certainly without Israel. But Israel wouldn't survive without America. Israel is a strategic location for the American military, but there's something else that's going on here, right? And America has given Israel more support than any other. I'm not even sure what this person's going with this. It's sort of like babbling, because they're triggered they're offended to the max. It says, the only place they can go, we get into a war. Enough of that, by the way. The Jews, Arabs, and a lot of Muslim from different nations getting along fine in L.A., and the Jewish and Muslim people from Iran get along fine in Beverly Hills. The language in the voting polls are in Farsi. I don't even understand what that is, a babbling at the end. Then you're against Larry David's provocation of how he treated the Jews and like I said, there would be no protests like that. Like, I can't imagine there would be Jewish people protesting the opening of a Palestinian chicken place next to a deli. Like, that all looked goofy. And Larry David's portrayal, and people are saying it was funny, and I don't find the show funny. Like, there are a couple of things that I thought were, in the way that Seinfeld was funny. They were good, like, jokes, but Larry David's not a funny person. He's got annoying presentation. He's just, full on annoying, right? And the characters are not really likable, and they're kind of hateful, and they're all these things. The way they conduct themselves, manipulative, and they're sabotaging and undermining each other, the couples. And I mean, just this one episode, I'm like, these are horrible, miserable people, right? And the way that they presented all the Palestinians as being a group of people that live for one reason, and that is to hate Jews and wish for the destruction of Jews. That's how he portrayed them in the storyline. And so you're saying that Jews and Muslims get along fine, which I think they probably would. The Jewish people I know got along fine with Muslims and other people. The people I knew that, that I grew up with and, these other people, they didn't have issues. I never saw any sort of conflict between them. They didn't talk politics, and I don't think the ones that I knew were very concerned about the politics and the stuff that's going on in Israel and Palestine. But just to wrap this up, this person being offended by what I said here, everybody gets offended when they are warped in some way, and I say something that's a lot closer to the truth than what they believe. And the same thing is happening with this Sound of Freedom, the Trumpers. I mean, people love Trump, the Cubies, any group that you identify with when they are, or the point of view of a group or the point of view of these people. And I'm not even talking about, I didn't know this person watched my videos, and I wasn't talking to them directly, but I said things that they can't admit that are true. And instead of taking a look at yourself, because you see from watching me for 8 years that I'm good at this and that I am usually pretty spot on about these things. And just, because of, my ability to see patterns and the connection to divinity, and because I don't really care about them. I'm not emotionally involved. And, I give my reasoning for the way I came about the information, right? And the person saying that I should go to Israel before talking about such matters is ridiculous. Like it's like somehow you need to go to these countries to have an opinion about them or make a decision on what you see going on. Yeah, it would be more informative if I went to Israel and Palestine and saw firsthand, but I'm not making this my life's work. This is just something I'm talking about because Kennedy brought it up, and what he said is not true. And it's wrong. It's wrong to put this information out and, to characterize all the Palestinian people in this way. As a Jewish person, you have to at least admit there's plenty of Jewish people who are on the side of Palestine or looking for fair treatment for the Palestinian people. I was friends with, or I was, I liked, on Facebook, they have these sort of organizational pages, and you like them, and then you see when they post things in your feed. And there was 2 groups based in Israel, maybe 3 of them, I'm not sure, but there's at least 2, that were for the fair treatment of Palestinians. And that's where a lot of this information came from. People who were Jewish people in Israel who are appalled by the way their country is treating the Palestinian people. And so, they're in Israel, and they're Israelis, they're Jewish people, and they don't agree with the way the Palestinian people are being treated. But again, if you're offended to the max, you can always leave. Like, you've been here for 8 years. You see value in my channel, you don't. And, I don't take complaints, and I'm not here to debate people. And, everyone's welcome to their opinion. This is my opinion. And you're saying that I can't verbalize it. And when groups pressure people and use terms like anti-Semitic or something like that to pressure people to not say things that they believe, it is hurtful to that group. When Jewish organizational people come out and silence somebody like they did with Kyrie Irving and they did with Kanye West, it backfires because people get a negative attitude towards that group and those people. And this is well documented. You don't have to take my word for it. And so this person leaving this comment, did this comment help Jewish people and Jewish community in Israel, or did it hurt it? It hurt it, right? This comment that I'm now reading. You didn't help your cause. You didn't help your group of people. And the way that you would do that is to admit some wrongdoing and say something like, yeah, it isn't like a black and white where the Jews are the good guys and the Palestinians are the bad guys. And that's what Kennedy said. And anybody who agrees with what Kennedy said, especially if you're a Jewish person, you're going to hurt people's opinion of you and the group. Because nobody's going to say, anybody who looks at this objectively would not say it's just that the Palestinians are evil and that the Muslims are all evil and the Jews are the heroes. And if that's your position, you're never going to, you're always going to be at odds with the majority of people because no one's buying into that. If you have some sheeple But people in the truth community aren't going to buy into that. It's just not right. It's not fair. Anytime you want to bring peace and harmony into a situation, the first thing you do is you own up to the part that you created. If you want to have sort of extend an olive branch to the people you're fighting with, you admit to what you did wrong. You don't come in just saying, oh, you have to change. This is my olive branch, you suck and you have to change. That never works. And so as a group of people, you have to admit the things that you've done wrong, the things that you've done to make the situation worse, and to get, worldwide support and get, positive feelings from other groups of people and other demographics of people, especially Americans here, who are, giving you guys a lot of money, giving Israel a lot of money in terms of, billions of our tax dollars are going to Israel. If you want to win support, you don't try to silence everybody who criticizes Israel or says anything negative that is somehow offensive, like what just happened with Jamie Foxx. That didn't help your cause. That didn't help the people outside of your group. Yelling anti-Semitism, at the drop of a hat, when we live in a world where everyone's critical of each other and people are nasty and the internet's nasty, and you think you're above criticism, your group is above criticism, that's already going to cause you problems. That's already going to cause a backlash. The way that the community guidelines of YouTube and social media has catered to this idea, that causes backlash. It causes resentment. So that's where some of the hate comes from. Again, I don't have it, but other people do, and that's where it comes from, right? Where it seems like you want special treatment as a group, that you think that you're above the kind of criticism and reproach, and you're not fair about it because, like I said, if there was a show like Larry David that was a Palestinian person who was in the lead character spot like Larry David is in Curb Your Enthusiasm, and he was portrayed the Jewish people the way Larry David portrayed the Palestinian people, there would be outrage. They would want to cancel the show, fire the people. I mean, it would be national news, and it would be completely different than this Curb the Enthusiasm. There's no press coverage. There's nobody speaking up or standing up for the Palestinian people. And so that's the definition of abuse. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting for the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.